Justice and judgment lie often a world apart. I would rather be a rebel than a slave. We have to free half of the human race, the women, so that they can help free the other half. Women had always fought for men, and for their children. Now they were ready to fight for their own human rights. Our militant movement was established. I have never advised the destruction of life, but of property, yes. The whole argument with the anti-suffragists, or even the critical suffragist man, is this, that you can govern human beings without their consent. Every principle of liberty enunciated in any civilized country on earth, with very few exceptions, was intended entirely for men, and when women tried to force the putting into practice of these principles, for women, then they discovered they had come into a very, very unpleasant situation indeed. Men make the moral code and they expect women to accept it. They have decided that it is entirely right and proper for men to fight for their liberties and their rights, but that it is not right and proper for women to fight for theirs. You must make women count as much as men, you must have an equal standard of morals, and the only way to enforce that is through giving women political power so that you can get that equal moral standard registered in the laws of the country. It is the only way. I want to say to you who think women cannot succeed, we have brought the government of England to this position, that it has to face this alternative, either women are to be killed or women are to have the vote. The argument of the broken window pane is the most valuable argument in modern politics. The militancy of men, through all the centuries, has drenched the world with blood. The militancy of women has harmed no human life save the lives of those who fought the battle of righteousness. I have made speeches urging women to adopt methods of rebellion such as have been adopted by men in every revolution. It is obvious to you that the struggle will be an unequal one, but I shall make it as long as I have an ounce of strength left in me, or any life left in me. It always seems to me when the anti-suffrage members of the government criticize militancy in women that it is very like beasts of prey reproaching gentler animals who turn in desperate resistance when at the point of death. My childhood was protected by love and a comfortable home. Yet, while still a very young child, I began instinctively to feel that there was something lacking, even in my own home, some false conception of family relations, some incomplete ideal. As long as women consent to be unjustly governed, they will be, but directly women say, "We withhold our consent, we will not be governed any longer as long as government is unjust." There is something that governments care for far more than human life, and that is the security of property, and so it is through property that we shall strike the enemy. Be militant each in your own way. I incite this meeting to rebellion. I have not personally suffered from the deprivations, the bitterness and sorrow which bring so many men and women to a realization of social injustice. Those men and women are fortunate who are born at a time when a great struggle for human freedom is in progress. It is an added good fortune to have parents who take a personal part in the great movements of their time. I am glad and thankful that this was my case. If it is right for men to fight for their freedom, and God knows what the human race would be like today if men had not, since time began, fought for their freedom, then it is right for women to fight for their freedom and the freedom of the children they bear. I had to get a close-hand view of the misery and unhappiness of a man-made world, before I reached the point where I could successfully revolt against it. I want to say right here, that those well-meaning friends on the outside who say that we have suffered these horrors of prison, of hunger strikes and forcible feeding, because we desired to martyrize ourselves for the cause, are absolutely and entirely mistaken. We never went to prison in order to be martyrs. We went there in order that we might obtain the rights of citizenship. We were willing to break laws that we might force men to give us the right to make laws. I do not remember a time when I could not read, nor any time when reading was not a joy and a solace. You have to make more noise than anybody else, you have to make yourself more obtrusive than anybody else, you have to fill all the papers more than anybody else. In fact, you have to be there all the time and see that they do not snow you under, if you are really going to get your reform realized. Governments have always tried to crush reform movements, to destroy ideas, to kill the thing that cannot die. Without regard to history, which shows that no government have ever succeeded in doing this, they go on trying in the old, senseless way. Every man with a vote was considered a foe to women's suffrage unless he was prepared to be actively a friend. How different the reasoning is that men adopt when they are discussing the cases of men and those of women. Emmeline Pankhurst Gooden was born on Sloane Street in the Moss Side district of Manchester on 15 July 1858 to 14 June 1928. At school, her teachers called her Emily, a name she preferred. Although her birth certificate says otherwise, she believed and later claimed her birthday was a day earlier, on Bastille Day, 14 July. Emmeline Pankhurst was a British political activist who organised the UK suffragette movement and helped women win the right to vote. In 1999, Time named her as one of the 100 most important people of the 20th century, stating that, "She shaped an idea of objects for our time," and shook society into a new pattern from which there could be no going back. She was widely criticized for her militant tactics, and historians disagree about their effectiveness, but her work is recognized as a crucial element in achieving women's suffrage in the United Kingdom. Pankhurst was introduced at the age of 14 to the women's suffrage movement. She founded and became involved with the Women's Franchise League, which advocated suffrage for both married and unmarried women. When that organization broke apart, she tried to join the left-leaning Independent Labour Party through her friendship with socialist Keir Hardie, but was initially refused membership by the local branch on account of her sex. While working as a poor law guardian, she was shocked at the harsh conditions she encountered in Manchester's workhouses. In 1903, Pankhurst founded the Women's Social and Political Union (WSPU), an all-women suffrage advocacy organization dedicated to deeds, not words. The group identified as independent from and often in opposition to political parties. She transformed the WSPU machinery into the Women's Party, which was dedicated to promoting women's equality in public life. In her later years, she became concerned with what she perceived as the menace posed by Bolshevism and joined the Conservative Party. She was selected as the Conservative candidate for Whitechapel and St. George in 1927. She died on 14 June 1928, only weeks before the Conservative government's Representation of the People Equal Franchise Act 1928 extended the vote to all women over 21 years of age on 2 July 1928. She was commemorated 2 years later with a statue in Victoria Tower Gardens, next to the Houses of Parliament.